the previous forums and meetings, we've had outstanding questions from the audience. So I know the first one has to break the ice, but I love questions and I welcome them. Yes, ma'am. Let me get back to you. Yes. That is an excellent question. Thank you for asking the first question. There are 64 K through 5 students in Trussville City Schools that live outside of the Trussville city limits. Those 64 students are children of employees. All 64 are children of employees. Now let me break that down to what employees? City employees and school employees. So we do have a policy in place that children of city and school employees can attend here, but no one else can. That's a great question. We have no tuition-paying students. No one is coming to Trussville City Schools that lives outside of Trussville except for the employee children. And we are under a federal court order to operate that way, and that's what we do. But that's a good question, and I've heard that. Rumors are flying, and I love it when you ask questions based on rumors because we can maybe clean it up that way. But thank you for asking. Did that answer your question okay? Any more? That is a state law called the AAA Act, and we have not had anyone enroll here. But that is a law that they could, but they haven't. But that's a great question. If you're overcrowded because of children that don't live here, that's a problem. Yeah, that's a good question. I like that. Yes.
Is this a Trussville-only vote?
This is a Trussville-only vote. This is a municipal vote for residents inside the city limits. It's a municipal tax. It is. Yes.
You've mentioned a lot about the 7 and the 5 operate budget in 2 schools. And first, I'm not against education. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. And when I moved here in 1989, Trussville School System won the Blue Ribbon Award a couple of times. So since then, it's been different. Now, my question to you, to everyone on this committee, is about the budget for the buildings. And also, I looked at the city data information. 64% of the people that live in Trussville are from about 90 through 63 years of age. That's not children-bearing ages, and only about 23% of the people here actually have children in school. When you look at the ages excluding starting at seniors and going down. Now, if you're saying we only got 300 people in trailers, which my granddaughter is, and I was probably one of the people that was calling you, why are we building 2 schools when the numbers do not match up for the population of 1,000 people that you're talking about?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm going to go to the last slide, the very last slide, and then I'm going to walk over to my population map because we have been asked that before. That's a very good question. We have...
Dr. Neal, can you kind of reiterate his question? I'm not sure that everybody heard.
Okay, the question is, why are you building 2 schools? Because it doesn't look like the numbers add up. It doesn't look like you need 2 schools. We have several different angles of answers. One is a population projection, and I may get Mr. Kirkland or Mr. Garrett to address population projections in just a minute. The other one is about what we use classrooms for, and I may ask then Ms. Schmidt to talk in a few minutes. But to answer your question immediately, we have a capacity for 1,500 students if you fill every classroom at Payne. We have 300 students in portable buildings. And we have Longmeadow, Stockton, and Carrington that, well, I'll do them all, Rivercrest, Jeremiah, Cahaba Manor, and Glen Cross, that will all go into the Payne campus as those subdivisions are built out and we have no more space at all for any students. And when you look at the slide that I prepared in anticipation of a question like that, Trussville City Schools is accredited, and we're accredited by Advanced Ed. It looks like the word advanced on the last column, but it's Advanced Ed. And the standard for our accreditation is 22 students per classroom, and I just used 4th and 5th grade because the standards change by grade level. So this year, Ms. Bruno really had some crowded classrooms in 5th grade. And we know our accreditation best practice standard is 22. So with those students with 27, those parents were upset. They know their class needs to be smaller. So we talked about the idea of adding a 5th grade teacher, and there was nowhere to put her except under an oak tree. There's nowhere to move in another portable. There is not another, I guess we can divide the gym and start sacrificing the gym and do that kind of thing. So it's not that we need a school for 300 because 300 students are in portables. We have overcrowded classrooms plus students in portables. Now, when you are educating students in science and art and music, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Schmidt or Ms. Bruno or both, because you also need classrooms for science labs and art rooms and music rooms, and we don't have that yet. So I'll turn it over to them to talk about if you want to call them extra rooms. They're not extra. It's just additional rooms that we could use for the curriculum.
And that's true. Originally, when we moved into our building, we had some spaces that were available for a teacher's faculty lounge, a gifted room, a gifted education room. I'm trying to think of the different ones. Those are all filled now with classes. We have no place for an extra computer lab. We have the one that was built, and then we have one more that teachers can sign up to go to. It stays full all the time. We need a computer lab for each grade level on those halls. We have no space for any of those things. We do have adequate space right now for art and for music. Our gym is extremely crowded. Our primary kids get PE every day for 35 minutes. And in order to get that, the gym opens at 8:30 and runs till 2:30 with no breaks. I have 3 PE teachers and a PE aide. They just take turns having lunch, so the gym goes all day long. The first 2 periods, we have 8 classrooms that go to PE just to make the schedule work. 4 of them are on the gym floor. 2 of them are upstairs in what was meant to just be an area like this, but we've made it our fitness arcade. And 2 more go to the amphitheater to do health lessons or cup stacking, something that they can do on steps. So we don't even have enough room right now for physical education. We did build a second playground so that we would have enough playground space, but our children have to cross the road, which is covered with traffic all day. Our SROs have done a great job of helping us monitor that, but we truly have no space. We do hands-on science programs, but teachers have to shut down everything in their room, prep all that hands-on dirt, worms, aquarium stuff, do the experiment, and then put it all back up again. If we had additional space in our schools, we could designate science resource rooms where we could do those things. So there's multiple uses for any space that we have.
Today, we have 3 special education classrooms in portables. Both of my gifted classrooms are in portables. And that's not the best learning environment. We don't like that, but we really didn't have any other choice. And as Ms. Schmidt said, when we first opened the building, we only had 1 computer lab. Now we have 3. We need an additional one, if you want to know the truth. We have a lot of really neat, unique spaces that we've had to turn into classrooms. There is no such thing as a teacher's lounge. Legally, you're supposed to have one, but we sure don't. We don't lounge a whole lot. It's just wall to wall. The hallways, the lunchroom, every inch is used.
Yes. And then I do want to talk about population projections a bit. And you want to address that?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neal. My name's Sid McNeil again. I've been on the board for 5 years. And I just want to make a comment on this because I think it's a really critical issue related to what we're proposing. We are proposing the building of 2 schools for 2 basic reasons. One, the Board of Education and the superintendent looked at our options, and it isn't possible for us to build an 800 or 1,000 student elementary school in one location in Trussville. Secondly, data indicates that it's not healthy for us to build schools of that size. When the Payne campus came online, it was a Jefferson County school. It wasn't a Trussville City school. And both of my children were in that school the day that it opened. Those schools were at capacity on that day. And they have effectively been over capacity since then. So just to run through some numbers that we as a Board of Education thought through as we were thinking about this plan. There are about 2,100 students at the Payne campus in total. 300, as you know, are in portables. In order for that site to be fully functional, even at full capacity, we would have to move more than just 300 students off of that campus. We would need to move 400 probably plus students, and then we would still be at capacity. Now, this Board of Education would be derelict in its responsibilities towards you as our citizens if we recommended that we leave Payne at capacity, because there are new subdivisions going up and down Highway 11 like Stockton that are being built. So we'll really need to move more than 400 students out of that campus in order for it to have growth potential beyond the current year that it's in. So if we are going to only be able to build a 400 or 500 capacity school at the historic high school campus and another 400 or 500 capacity school at the Magnolia Place area, and we need to move somewhere between 500 and 600 students off of the Payne campus in order for it to be fully functional, as the 2 principals have noted, it is a very responsible act for us to build both schools at the same time.
Okay. Yes, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah,
Yes.
I asked about the budget question.
The budget question.
The question I ask is, the $50 million, have y'all already created a budget and have an outlined budget of the cost? Because if you take the information you threw up as a budget, you're taking $675,000 out to put in an escrow account. It's your $25,000 that you're going to use this kind of swing money. So is the 2 schools already outlined to cost $49 million, including operations, and is operations not inclusive of staff?
Okay. The staffing question is probably the most interesting part of that. The State Department of Education reimburses us for cost centers, for administrative costs for these schools. Now, the teachers, if we make classes smaller, we would probably only hire 3 or 4 teachers. We're okay in kindergarten and first grade right now. We want to keep those numbers down as low as we can go, but we won't be hiring a myriad of teachers. We'll have we have 15 teachers in some grades, 18 in some grades, and 13 in 4th and 5th. So when the students go away, let's take the 18. Let's say we have 18 teachers, and we divide the students like Mr. McNeil just described. Then 6 of those teachers stay at Payne for that grade level, and 6 go to Magnolia Place, and 6 go to the mall. So there are no additional teachers. Now, the additional cost are administrative costs, and the State Department reimburses us 1 year in arrears. So we have to have the budget to fund the principal and the administrative costs that first year, and then we're reimbursed.
So there is a staffing cost. Even though you're reimbursed, you have the upfront cost of staffing.
I have to do that for the first year has some startup costs, and that's included. And the other part that's included here is furniture, cafeteria tables, a full functioning cafeteria, and the big one is technology. We have a technology budget, so it's not that we'll come back to say, we forgot the classroom desks, or we forgot the computers, or the iPads. It's all included in what we'll need to start it up, those startup costs. Yes, sir.
I'm a little bit concerned about the cost, because I believe we had a high school out there that was $34 million, and it ended up being $70. And our football stadium, I think, was starting at 3 and ended up at 12. So usually things seem to run a lot more than people think. So I didn't know if there was a way that y'all were going to control costs and make sure that that didn't go over, because you're pretty much saying 25 years, $52 million, and you won't go over that. So that's what my worry is.
When you're dealing with construction, you can make predictions based on today's dollars, but if there is a catastrophe of sorts or a natural disaster or another Hurricane Katrina, construction costs will skyrocket. And that's what happened with the high school. Mm-hmm. The stadium. Yeah, the.
Yeah, and the bridge is included in some of that cost, but that's not what the build of a new stadium was. So 3 and 6 or 12, that's not what it started out for a new stadium. I just want you to understand that up front, that that's not accurate. Now, as far as the cost, construction cost of the high school, at the time that it was built and the skyrocketing of building materials, yes. That's not something anybody that I know here has any, and Tom Powers can speak to that better than probably anyone. That's not something that any of us have any control over, cost of building materials.
That's a good question. It's like you need a crystal ball to answer it, but there's a chance if we had a natural disaster that those costs could change. Mm-hmm. It's true.
My question pertains to the middle school. I have a elementary child and a middle schooler. The middle school traffic is just as bad as the primary traffic. Is there anything in the future for the middle school? I mean, I see Miss Berry sitting over there, and I sit in car line for an hour to pick him up. And the 8th grade car line lines Trussville Clay Road. So I know that that's going to be a issue, because population's going to go up, and the primary schools are going to grow, and all those kids are going to meet up at the middle school one day.
We can look at that when it becomes a problem, and again, there will be a committee to resolve the problem, and I can see 2 immediate solutions. One is to add on to the middle school and manage that traffic differently, or build another middle school. But right now, we're doing okay, and we're good to go, and we have a little breathing room there. And it also depends on when these subdivisions build out, what grade level of student moves into that subdivision. So we've got our eye on it, but there is some room for growth there, and we're not near in the shape that we're in at the Payne campus. And we won't have to move in portables, because we've got a footprint for some additional classrooms. Yes.
When you say that you could add them at the middle school, is that the clause that is in the wording of the vote that says additions? If y'all decided to add them at the middle school, would it come from the money that you're asking us to pay?
I love that question, because you got down to the ballot, and I've published that ballot all over the place. The additions specifically for this tax vote are at the Cahaba Project School. We have the restored piece of the front and the right and the left, and the gym and auditorium right behind it. And then we have an addition rolling back toward Cherokee Drive to accommodate the number of students that we need. So it's a renovation and an addition. And that's why that word addition is in there, and that's why I love this audience. The new construction is at Magnolia Place, and the renovation and additional classrooms are part of the Cahaba Project School. Yes.
Assuming the you win the ballot or win the vote next Tuesday, who is going to make the financing decision, and how is it going to be made on the, I assume, a bond issue?
My finance director is here and the mayor is here. We would have to, yes. Oh, Alan's here. There you go.
I'll answer the best I can. What's happened in the past on the high school, the city actually issued the warrants for our high school and also for some debt at Payne. And so I'm assuming that's exactly what we would do with this, is the city would issue those warrants. Most of you know we just issued warrants for the stadium, the Husky Parkway completion, the bridge, and the city got an outstanding rating. Matter of fact, we got an upgrade to AA+ by one of the agencies. And so I'm assuming that we would do that again because that would be the best deal for the city. I think the city could get a better rating and thus better interest rates than would the school if they put them out themselves. So I think that would be the plan.
I understand that. I believe what my question really was is who decides who gets the business to sell those bonds?
That'd be the city council.
To really answer your question is that the school board can do the warrants on their own. Since there's funding, it's going straight to the school board, or the city can do it. If the school board elects to do it themselves, then they will make the selection of who's going to do the warrants. If the city council does it, then they will make that selection. Does that answer your question? Sir?
You don't know right now which body's going to do it?
No, sir. That's once the millage is passed, then the school board will decide how they want to proceed. And they'll have their CFO will look at both entities and which one they would fare best with. And that be my recommendation. If we can save money with one more than the other, well, then that's the way they should go.
I have a question. Okay. Standing up. Pass the torch.
I want to be. This is real important. I want to be real clear. The obvious answer will be if the school board borrows the money, which we could easily do, our rate would be X. If the city borrows the money in their name, it would be considerably less. I can tell you that before we ever go to market. It'll probably make sense that the city does it, and then there'll be a document between the city and the school board that all the money goes to pay this debt. But it would just be that. It would just be passed through. Jim, that would be the way it would be. They would be a legal document between the city and the school board that the income from this goes for X, and there wouldn't be no if and ands or buts. Mayor, that's the way I understand what we would do. The city of Trussville, I've been retired a lot of years, and all my investments that I have, almost all, is municipal bonds. That's been my livelihood. City of Trussville is a shining star in municipal bonds. I mean, the issue that just came out, they was gone in minutes. My guy called me. The bond issue that came out was swept off the market with the same day. And you know why? Because my bond guy says the city of Trussville has very, very high quality bonds and investors want them. So having all of that, we would be foolish as a school board not to use that in order to save all the money that we would save. At the same time, in your mind, you may be saying, well, how do we know for sure that this is all going to go for the school like we're saying? Well, there'll be a legal document that spells that out, that this money goes only for what we've been talking about here tonight.
Well, you're drilling down to it. If the city's rating is so high, then we should find out which company will do it for the least amount of commission. That's where I was really heading.
That's right, but to make sure everybody understands, the 7 meals goes straight to the school system. If the city does the warrant, then the only thing that the school board's going to do with that documentation is provide the debt service to pay that warrant. They'll keep the remainder of that, and that'll be controlled by the school board.
Right. And we would send out a request for proposals to get the best rate. The question was, when will this start and when will it be completed? Are you talking about the tax or the schools? Okay. The typical timeline for new construction is 16 to 18 months. And it depends on the weather and a lot of different things. Renovation is the same, but sometimes renovations run a little bit longer because you don't know what you're getting into. But we're looking at 16 to 18 months from start to finish. What time frame? We have to wait and see if this passes, and then what rates we can get and when they start, and we'll run as soon as we can, because we're running pretty fast on this one. We need to go ahead and relieve the overcrowding and get the problem solved. So a year and a half from right now would be perfect. Yeah, it would.